based on a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. I think it sums it up really well. The quote is, "A burning passion coupled with absolute detachment is the key to all success." If I can observe this, then I can begin to interrupt that pattern, and I can then set those goals and then pursue them while still being having that burning passion in this moment, being fully present and sustaining my happiness in the here and now. Because that's the only time you can experience your happiness. It's in the here and now. You're not going to experience it in the future. It isn't necessarily a definition of who you are, because that's when you fall into taking it personally. And as a leader, especially if you take it personally, you are really falling into an unhealthy pattern of resentment. As you said so wonderfully a moment ago, I did not have the self-awareness to even see that that's what was driving most of my behavior, most of my decisions. And because of that, I was living the life that other people wanted me to live. If you can have put that or operate under that framework, then you are going to be an effective leader.
Welcome, I'm your host Stefano, and this is When Leaders Talk, a podcast about leadership and, most importantly, about leaders. I want to start with a quote from Gandhi that is: "A burning passion and absolute detachment is the key for all success." This sentence has been probably the core of the conversation we had with Jay Abbasi. Jay is a great guest. He's a consultant and a coach. And he tells his story. He tells the story of transformation from the death of his father, the sudden death of his father, and the understanding how it's important to live in the moment. And that event, despite the grief, the pain, has been a pivotal moment for him. And he has learned a lot. He shares his learning with us in this episode. He's learning on leadership and personal leadership. And I guess there will be a lot for everyone to take because he's an inspiring person. I'm sure you will enjoy this conversation, and I invite you to subscribe to have other great people like Jay as a guest here. You can also go on masteryourseed.com to explore more about leadership as coaching and in the blog. And you can follow me on social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook to keep the conversation on this important topic. With no further ado, Jay Abbasi.
I define leadership as one's ability to drop their own ego in service of others.
Oh, that's it seems easy, right? Dropping ego. I know you work at Tesla. I'm talking about ego, so must be something. No, just kidding, just kidding. I don't want to judge. I don't want to name anyone. I don't want to make anyone upset. But yeah, but I'm totally with you. But what's beyond the ego? Okay, what else other than dropping ego?
So what that would consist of is it's one of the principles that I oftentimes talk about in the work that I do is being or caring more about what's right than who's right. So if you care more about what's right, then you're not just trying to pursue your own self-interest. You're not just trying to get other people to do things for you. And it doesn't, you're not playing any favorites either, where it's, I only want to hear it from this person or that person because they're the people who, for one reason or another, I've chosen to put in my own little inner circle. To me, that's not effective leadership. It's to be able to open up the platform and of anyone or that you're working with, and be able to be curious about what other ideas are out there, and then be able to guide the ship and being able to take action according to what's the best solution, not just what your solution is.
I like the guide in the ship. I'm very familiar with that.
Right.
Right. So that means also having a strong set of values. That's how I guess you would address your actions. That's the reference system that you will use to drive to make your decisions. And then especially in difficult moments, that's where you should go. And I use the word should because easy to say and difficult to do, especially in challenging moments when you're under pressure, when time is a concern or someone upsets you and everything else. And I actually wonder, on your experience, if you ever felt that those values were a constraint, almost like a little bit tight on you or on the organization.
Yeah. I think it does happen a lot where there's, let's say, information that a leader gets from above that we're unable to, let's say, share with our direct reports. And when you care deeply about the people who you serve and you want to be able to be honest with them and you
Mm,
want to be able to tell them what's going on, and it's a struggle. I know I felt that resistance in the past
right,
where I knew something, but I wasn't able to share it. And I knew that it would have an effect on the people who look to me as a leader. And so that's the value of honesty. And so what one has to balance is, as a leader of, especially of an organization, your job is, of course, to serve your team, but also to do your best to perform for the organization. And so while I want to hold true to my honesty, I have to learn how, and this is what I would have to do, is to be as honest as I can within while ensuring that I am doing what's right by the organization as well. And so
right.
that may be being honest about the fact that I can't talk about this right now. And that's the most honest I can be.
And that's nice. I mean, yeah, I like what you're saying. Also, because honesty, in my experience, is really something that Sometimes we think we are for the best of the organization. We try to cover something and tell a different stories, but at the end of the day, it rarely pay off. I mean, it's like the truth come out, and then you're naked, right? And then you're exposed, and people will lose trust. And what is
Yeah.
harder to build than trust, especially if has been cracked from previous events?
Very, very well said. Very well said.
Um, what is the I mean, I know that you have a great experience, not just Tesla, as we mentioned earlier, but I wonder who is the inspiration from you, because you've done a lot of changes through your life. I know that um you say that in your bio there was a special moment in your life when your father died, and then basically it was your pivot moment, right? Pivoting moment, and you really turned page. What was inside of you that led to that, and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think it was because it was so unexpected, and he seemed perfectly healthy, and then, you get that phone call, and you're just, your life gets turned upside down. I know many
Right,
people who have these experiences, and they tell me that either they had a similar response to mine or they went a completely different way. It definitely creates a change when we lose someone like that, and it forced me to ask the deeper questions of, why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? If I don't have as much time as I would like to have, if time is running short here, My father was 55. He was quite young. What am I going to do at this time? And so I think those questions just hit me so hard. I guess it was like, mortality, it was purpose, it was um, how to be happy. And it just went into an obsessive mode of learning where I just read everything I could and talked to anyone I could find and had people around me to help give me the insights and methodologies that I didn't know of, which then led to a major change in my life and personal life and my career.
What is that you would recommend to start with to, if you want to discover about yourself, if you want to change your life, where would you start? Or where did you start?
Well, when I started, I guess maybe I'll answer that by saying what I did and then what I would recommend. What I did was just read a lot of books on personal development. I started with the Stephen Covey's, the Tony Robbins, the Napoleon Hills, Dale Carnegie's, and that opened my mind to just a completely different way of thinking and living. Um, what it then led me to were more practices on how to slow things down a bit and be more present. And so meditation and mindfulness, that was kind of the next stage following my personal development journey. So while I don't think one is right and one is wrong, how I recommend it to people now is a bit of combination of both of those things, which is yes, keep feeding your mind and consuming your mind with things that will help you to see different perspectives, while doing some work on yourself in practices like meditation, mindfulness, journaling, things like that, to gather more insight into what's already there. Because while yes, it's good to consume new things and learn new things, what you're really looking for are answers that are already within you. You just need to be able to listen and find those answers within you.
Absolutely, and also because I I'm convinced that self-awareness is really the beginning of every journey. You cannot reach any destination if you don't know where you are. It's like jumping on a car without knowing how to drive, or what was where is the gear and everything else. And you need to know that. And most importantly, going back to what you said, you mentioned great authors, and I think actually Steve Covey is really one of my favorite. And I always recommend the Seven Habits for Highly Successful People. I think that was. I recently bought a book for my son, who is 19, 20 to be in a few months, and I told him, you gotta read that. That will open possibilities to that. But it's not just reading, right? As you say, you need to reflect. You need to take time to digest what you've learned. Because I can read all the books that I want. I can learn a lot, but if I don't practice what's inside, I'm not going anywhere. It's not like the book itself. Reading a book satisfies my needs. And what have you learned about yourself that you didn't know?
I learned that I was operating under a program of people pleasing. And I was so concerned about whether people liked me, whether they accepted me, whether they would reject me. And as you said so wonderfully a moment ago, I did not have the self-awareness to even see that that's what was driving most of my behavior, most of my decisions. And because of that, I was living the life that other people wanted me to live. I was just following orders in a way because I was just so concerned about, are they happy with me? Are they not happy with me? Did I do right by them? Did I not do right by them? And I'm careful, by the way, not to suggest we then completely go to the other side, which is not what I did, which is to say then, oh, then don't care at all what people think. Like, no, no, no. It's a good thing to care what people think. It's a good thing, but you can't let it be what determines your value, your worth, and how you live your life. It's you take that in as data and then still decide on what's the appropriate next step for the life that you want to create for yourself and how you can serve others. So, I mean, there's so many learnings. It would take me, I think, hours to go through them all with you. But what I think is one of the best learnings for me was noticing that this was my tendency, being able to learn how to observe it, not fight with it, not argue with it, just accept that it's there, and then not let it fuel my behavior.
Oh yeah, and I remember recently actually put something on LinkedIn about listening to feedback. Yeah, in a way that you can learn from what people say. And I'm with you. I mean, of course, it's not like you stop a first person on the street and you ask, "Hey, what type of person am I?" You have a very normally all of us we have a very small group of people we trust, and those are the people that we can listen to. And we need to do it with an open mind without getting upset. And of
Right.
course, if I want to ask a feedback to a colleague, I can expect some feedback on how I behave at work, not how I behave with my spouse or partner. It's different. They will give you, if you find the right people, the people you trust, the people that know you, that you know that they know you from different perspective, you ask different questions, and then you can have a clear picture, not just how people see you, but actually how you are, what your weaknesses are, because you will see there are recurring themes, in this different perspective, and that's where you need to work on, right?
Yeah. So another way to, I love what you said. Another way to visualize that is imagine that everyone you're speaking to is a mirror.
Right.
It's simply a mirror, and it's offering you a wonderful opportunity to be able to look at yourself from a different perspective. Now, sometimes the mirror that they're holding up is really a messed up mirror and it's cracked and it's not an accurate depiction because they're coming from another place where they have their own stuff going on and it has nothing to do with you, right? They're
Right.
projecting maybe their own insecurities and their own anger. So you have to be just careful about what it is that you're looking at and what you're gathering in that feedback. And what I also think is helpful is you said it really well when you were saying, it's not feedback on how my relationship is with my wife at home. It's feedback about this behavior. So what we need to do is be able to recognize that that feedback that you're getting is feedback on a certain behavior. It's feedback on a certain perspective. It isn't necessarily a definition of who you are, because that's when you fall into taking it personally. And as a leader, especially if you take it personally, you are really falling into an unhealthy pattern of resentment, which will not work well for you as a leader.
Not at all. Not at all. Actually, that's where first of all, you lose trust on the person who's talking to you. You don't like him or her anymore because they're saying hard truth, and you're upset, and then um, um, it's hard to accept that. What is the thing you're still struggling with? Talking about weaknesses or blind spots.
Well, I guess there's three things that come to mind. The first one is what I have to do as a coach a lot of the time is to challenge people and to kind of shake them up a little bit, right? Especially when I'm seeing them fall into a pattern of behavior that isn't serving them. And that tendency can come up for me a lot of the time to empathize. And empathy is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but empathize so much so that it becomes it's difficult even for me to have to call it out so directly. So this is something I have to work on all the time. So I'm speaking with someone, let's say, and they're telling me about this problem that they're having. And I'm looking at them and I know that they're not taking ownership. They're blaming someone else and they're blaming the world for their problems. But I can sense that they're very emotional about it. And they're in a lot of pain as they're talking to me. The challenge is having that balance of I want to be empathetic. I want to give that person a big hug and I want to call them out on their stuff and help them to see that it's no one else's responsibility but theirs and they need to take more ownership. So that's one thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind, I'm just in being very honest, is as a father at times, I find just as a father and as a father, I'm a leader in that way too. Um, I find it challenging at times to not hold too high of expectations for my child. She's 11. She's going to be 12 soon. And I have to catch myself a lot of the time because I have this high expectation of how she's going to do in school and things she's going to succeed at. And I can sometimes find myself falling into that pattern. So I'm working on that. And then the third is more of just, I guess, as an entrepreneur, I'm always, I think there are things that I want to do better at letting go of and delegating because I sometimes fall into the tendency of holding on to everything because I feel I know I can do it right. I know I could do it well, but I want to be getting better at trusting even more people beyond my current team to be able to take on some of those responsibilities.
What is that you think is stopping you from delegating more, for example?
I think there is comfort in having things as they are. And so it is stepping into the discomfort of letting go of things that I have established and have found a lot of success in.
Well, I guess I'm with you. I can relate. I've been working a lot, especially at the beginning of my career in the Navy. Was hard. I have, I guess, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram. I am a controller. I'm a Type 8, so I like to control things. And it's something that I've been working a lot when I was a junior officer because I came to understand how really important it is to give ownership, allow other people to feel part of it, and let them work, let them do their job, let them do their mistakes. And it's not like I'm always right at all. And then we learn, and that's how we learn. And going back to what you say, to get stepping out of the comfort zone is I don't want to say is the only way, but it's probably is the most important way to learn. It's the most important way to acquire new habits, new skills, to open our mind and let everything come to us in a curious way. Being curious, being happy about that, getting comfortable in being uncomfortable. That's something that you can. It's silly to say probably, but it's something that it is so true. Just getting there. And yet, we struggle, and even if we tell our clients about that, it's something it's not always easy. It's not always easy. It has to be intentional. Um, so thank you for actually talking about your struggles right now. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate the honesty. Going back to the honesty, going back to what you said, uh, what you said earlier. Who is your role model? Who is the person you admire that is really inspiring you to do what you're doing, on to do the things in the way you are doing things?
Just one?
Oh no, no, no.
Okay. Because it's hard to define to pick just one.
Uh-huh. No, no, no.
Because
Go ahead.
there's so many There's so many that come to my mind. The first one that came to my mind is my mother, because I think my mother is the has showcased resilience in a way that I've never seen anybody else in my whole life. And as of course, that being one of the closest relationships in my life, I've seen it firsthand and how she was able to overcome adversity and keep going and just show the kind of persistence. Uh, it's something I deeply admire. The other one that comes to my mind is an author and speaker who he passed away. His name is Anthony DeMello. And I find that in anything I've ever either read or seen of him, he had this incredible way of delivering a powerful message in a very entertaining and engaging way where you feel like you're listening to your best friend, you're listening to, or your favorite uncle deliver a message. So he's the second that comes to my mind. And other role models. Yeah. I've had so many great leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with firsthand. And I feel like I've taken a little bit out of all of them here and there, you know. But in terms of people that came to my mind, those were the two that really stuck out from that question.
You mentioned Anthony DeMello. I remember reading books of him when I was like a teenager or something like that. Around now, probably not a teenager, a little bit older. But yeah, you're right. I had this for a moment. I had in my 20s actually. I had this um I don't know, the spirit of reading these kind of books, and you are on spot when you say that the message he sends is important, and he does it in a funny way. Even the names of his books were funny. That's why probably as a at 20 years old, I was attracted by those. I was like, oh, let me see. There was. I don't remember the titles now. I lost the books in the many moving that I've done in my life. But there were some chicken involved, some eagles or something. I don't remember, but some birds. I remember that. Um, what is that you want to inspire? Actually, what kind of legacy you want to build? Talking about inspiration.
I think the legacy that I want to build is based on a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. I think it sums it up really well. The quote is, "A burning passion coupled with absolute detachment is the key to all success." So a burning passion, which is I can be passionately immersed in the present moment, engaging with people, engaging with whatever it is that I'm doing with great passion, with great love, with great conviction, and I can do so with absolute detachment. So to do so with absolute detachment suggests that while I have a preference of what the outcome will be, I am not attached to it. Just like think of a leader, right? We were talking about egos before. If as a leader, I'm attached to it being a certain way, it has to be this way. I'm not actually seeing it clearly. I'm seeing it through the lens of it has to go the way I want it to go. That's attachment. But if we can do so with absolute detachment, so whatever comes from this, I will be able to handle it in that future moment. But I am not going to be fueling my activity so that I get a certain result, so that it goes a certain way. And then if it doesn't, then I'm unhappy or I'm angry or I'm upset. So I love that quote because then he ends it by saying it's the key to all success, not just some success, to all success. Whether that's success as a leader, as a parent, as a friend, as a partner, it's the key to all success. And if I can leave that legacy for people, I think what it does is it offers people a pathway forward where they can pursue great things, go for it, achieve, you know, set the bar high, go for it. But don't do so where you are believing that the fulfillment of your desire is where you're going to find your happiness and your peace, because it's just not true. Your happiness and your peace is within you, and you are choosing to live this life as a way to celebrate your happiness and your peace and your joy.
I'm reflecting on what you just said. I think that's a powerful sentence quote from Gandhi, and then I like that. I'm trying to think, how can, and actually I'm going to ask you this, how can a person be detached? I mean, if you think about it, if we have a passion, we want to achieve a result, we have a vision, we have a goal, and many people will put energy, effort, time, money, they will consume themselves and relationships, some of them, not everyone, but they are on to achieve that goal. How can you be detached from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is to do all the things that you said one would do. Set those goals, make that investment in time and energy. And as you are doing these things, you said self-awareness earlier, to be observant of oneself and to then take inventory of, am I investing my own happiness and my well-being in the achievement of that goal? So what's fueling me setting that goal? And if what's fueling setting that goal is the belief that when I get there, then I'm going to be happy, to begin to respectfully challenge that belief, to respectfully challenge that belief, because as long as you do that, that means your happiness is always in the future. It's always going to be when I get something. So that's where, through self-awareness, by observing oneself, I can recognize, look at what I'm doing here. I'm telling myself that the future is where my happiness is. And if you can learn how to begin to interrupt that pattern through what I often call, and I learned this from Anthony DeVello, self-observation, to observe oneself. If I can observe this, then I can begin to interrupt that pattern, and I can then set those goals and then pursue them while still having that burning passion in this moment, being fully present and sustaining my happiness in the here and now. Because that's the only time you can experience your happiness. It's in the here and now. You're not going to experience it in the future. So it's actually just living true to reality is what I want to hopefully convey in my messaging.
Happiness, as you said, happiness in the future is not happiness at all, because you're always
Right.
projecting a situation that will or will not happen. You will be able or not to get there. And while you were talking, I came to realize there is another thing we need to consider, is that despite all of our efforts, despite everything we do, not everything is controlled by us. Actually, a few things we can
Very
control.
little.
So if we get upset for any deviation from the path that we have in our mind, because we have this project with this strategy, and I wanna create a company that would be successful, a unicorn, blah blah blah. But there are so many things in between this moment and that moment that I cannot control. I can't. I simply can't. What I can do is, as you say beautifully, first of all, enjoy every single step that is bringing me to the path. And secondly, living in the moment will also allow me to catch other options, opportunities. Because if I am so narrow focus on that goal, I will miss everything else. The 1 degree view field that I have is only 1 degree, and there are 359 degrees that I'm missing around me. Opportunities, relationship,
Exactly.
anything. Allowing ourselves to be in the moment is really is the only way to keep this field view get open and open and open and getting bigger, and being able to catch everything. But you know, I think one of the problem is that our culture is so result oriented, and you hear stories of people who, I know that's, you know, and there are few. That's what we forget. You know, it's not like we have many Elon Musks, going back to Tesla, or many Steve Jobs, or many Bill Gates, or whatever. They have been able probably to um, achieve great results, and yet I think their main quality was being able to pivoting, changing perspective, right? I mean, Amazon was founded to sell books online, and now you can buy even a car. I found out recently on Amazon. That's amazing. That's something that it's really amazing. Okay, so thank you for sharing this. I think it's a very important specification about what attachment is. So, what are the tools that we can use to be more detached?
I think the first one is having a practice in place whereby one carves out time to be present. And that can be in many different forms. There's meditation, there's mindfulness, there's journaling, there's prayer, there's yoga, there's many different ways one can do this. And I am not, I'm a huge advocate for meditation. Um, and I find that what's best for everybody is unique to them. So whatever it is to be able to carve out time regularly to not be in this mode of it's one thought to the next, 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 to the next. It's do, it's do, it's do, it's do, it's do. It's essentially being able to pause and be present. So to me, this is a faculty that one needs to develop because otherwise, how can you be able to recognize the pattern? There's no space at all. It's a Viktor Frankl's quote, right? Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and that space is our power to choose our response, and our response lies our growth and our freedom. So the space, if it's not there, then there's no ability to be able to recognize how you are reacting. So we need to be able to create that space. To me, I think that's the most important of all tools to be able to learn how to detach. And so there's that practice, and I did allude to journaling there, but what I also think is its own practice is you used the word before reflection, which is to be able to then also reflect on how one is behaving day in and day out. What are the thoughts that one is experiencing? What are the decisions people are making? And be able to, how am I spending my time? What am I doing day in and day out? Because if you're not reflecting back, you're just going to continue to stay in this autopilot and just go, 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 go. So we need to be able to have that time of reflection as well. So I think when you can pair those two kind of things there, those are two powerful tools, I think help with being able to learn how to detach. So I'm not suggesting to anyone don't set goals. I'm not suggesting to anyone don't go for what it is that you want. No, 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 no. Set those goals, plan, and approach each of these steps with vigor. And be careful that you aren't investing your own happiness and peace in the achievement of one of those results when there could be many different ways that the path takes you.
Do you think technology is getting into the way of our reflection? Is making reflection easier or more difficult?
I am hesitant to blame technology as itself in itself, and I'm more willing to um, suggest that the problem is in our unwillingness to take ownership of technology for ourselves, which is to say, um, the devices that we have the settings to where you can choose how often you are being notified, what kind of sound it makes, and therefore I always lean into taking ownership, which is to say, technology can be a problem when you leave it all in its default settings so that it is constantly pulling your attention left, right, all over the place, and you're on your feeds and you're looking at other people and what they're achieving, and you're feeling this sense of lack because you're comparing yourself to another person, and you're constantly fueling your mind with more and more stimulus, and therefore there is no space anymore. That's sure a problem. How you solve that problem is to look at your devices and determine how you control your devices rather than your devices controlling you. Because I think for many people, that's what's happening. Devices end up controlling them, technology ends up controlling them. So, yes, it is a problem, but I do think there's a clear solution. The question is, are people willing to pursue or to consider that solution because technology ends up being a drug for them? And if it's hard to take away your drug, people like their drug. They want their drug. The drug is the dopamine kick you get every time you're checking your phone, every time you check your email, every time you check the new feed and Instagram and LinkedIn or whatever is coming up. That's your drug. So can you recognize that the drug is harming you and choose to have a better relationship with your drug?
I think there is a lot of self deception on that, and oh yeah, I know how to control my time on social media. Oh, I know how to do that. And I think the metaphor used with the drug, it suits well. I mean, I guess if you ask a drug addict, can you control your addiction? They will say, oh, of course, I'm not addicted. I can stop whenever I want. But I can't. They can't. I know it's hard. And yeah, and the other thing is that I guess technology, especially when it's used in this compulsive way, really it keeps us away from the moment. We're projecting. You said
Exactly.
beautifully. We're projecting ourselves on the screen on whatever other people are saying because it's a shot of dopamine. Because the number of likes on our latest post or picture makes a make one makes us happy in a way. It's not really happiness. It's like, oh, now I want more. Now I want more. I want to be an influencer or these kind of things. I know this is a never-ending story. I guess we can talk about it, but there is a way to harness actually technology in a good way. There are apps actually that can help you.
But yeah,
If you are, it's like going to a detox, a rehab center. There are apps that can help you control yourself. There are
well
apps
said.
that
Yeah,
can help you
absolutely.
meditate.
It's not, you're right. It's not this like evil, it's not so binary. There are ways where you can utilize these devices in very positive ways. Um, but it really does come down to being intentional rather than being reactionary. If you're intentional with your device and you do utilize the apps that help you, and then even being on LinkedIn, that's how you and I connected. I mean, that's a wonderful
Right.
thing, right? If
Oh
it
yeah.
weren't for LinkedIn, we wouldn't have this connection. And so there's wonderful things that come from this incredible technology that we have around us. It is a problem when it has trained your mind to need constant stimulus in order for you to feel okay, to where you can't handle a moment of quote unquote boredom because you are constantly in need of more and more and more. That's a problem. You go out to eat at a restaurant, and we've all seen it. Two people sitting there, and they're both on their phones, and they're not even engaging in conversation. Anyone with working eyes and ears can tell that that's a problem. And so that's two people on their drug and they can't let go of their drug. And it makes me sad. It fills my heart with wanting to help them and wanting to teach them a better way, but I can't do it for them and I can't do it for anybody else. That one has to recognize that behavior is not going to make you happy. It's going to keep you in that state of what we were saying earlier, attachment, which is I reach for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, hoping that this is going to make me happy.
It's the willingness, as you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, I can point at you and show you how addicted you are. You're not gonna believe me. You're gonna dismiss me.
Yeah.
It doesn't work well. And sometimes it is even worse when you see families at the restaurant on their phone. Well, and now we have time only for our last questions. It is, given what you said and what we said in this conversation. First of all, thank you again very much. But what are the recommendations you will give to a young person or a new leader? Will come to you and ask for any good recommendation.
I think the things I would tell them to do are, you used the word curious before, and I think that's it's a very good word, and it really does speak to what I think makes for a good leader, is to be genuinely curious. If you can be genuinely curious and look to every person as if they have brilliance in them, to look at everybody really knowing that they have wisdom within them, and the answers are there. And it's not about you, it's about, what can I pull from this person? What can I learn from this person? How can this person contribute towards the greater mission of this team, of this company? If you can put that or operate under that framework, then you are going to be an effective leader. And that is if you're just starting as a new leader or you are an established leader. At any point, you can push this button, if you will, of shifting towards curiosity. So while there are many other things, of course, I could advise someone on, I feel like that's the best suggestion that I can offer somebody who wants to know how to be a better leader.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's great suggestion. I'm taking away from this conversation a lot of things. I like, first of all, the quotation from Gandhi. That was amazing. Gandhi didn't know that. But also, what you said, the Viktor Frankl quote is amazing, and actually is one of my mantra. Let me say it again. The space between the stimulus and our response, that's where freedom lies, and that's what people sometimes needs to be reminded, and myself too. I get it printed on the wall in front of me. That's why I use it very often. So thank you again, Jay, for having me with us and for having been a great guest.
Oh, you're most welcome. This was wonderful. I appreciate you having me on.